Okay, so just a sort of background knowledge, we're going to be looking at CIDR notation today, class IP addresses, and this is going to lead into quite a big, a lot of content to do with subnetting, so quite a big concept tested on Cisco exams, and you will see a lot of in your exams. So we're sort of starting here. We need to identify what a class range is. So at the bottom here, we've got our sort of 5 different classes of IP addresses, and it breaks them down into categories. So class A, the IP range would be what 1 to 127. So the last IP address in a class A would be 127.255.255.255. Class B goes from 128 to 191, so we're looking at that first number in the IP range. So, and then Class C 191 to 223. So if we're looking at some sample IP addresses, such as our home IP, which might be 192.168.0.1 is a Class C network. If we're looking at sort of a mid-enterprise network, which could be 172.16.0.0, that's going to be a Class B because it's fallen into that category. So it's that first number we're looking at for identifying the class range. Now with them class ranges, you've got default subnet masks. So a Class A subnet mask by default is 255.0.0.0. Class B 255.255.0.0. Okay, what this is essentially telling us is that the numbers that are, so the 255 is network addresses, and the remaining numbers are host addresses. So with that theory, the lower the IP number, so the lower the class range, the more hosts in theory you can have on a network. So when again we're looking at the example of a home network, which is a Class C, it could be a 192, again 192.168.0.0. That is going to limit the number of hosts we can have. So we're going to be in this 4th octet here, because all the ones are going to be allocated to network addresses, and we can only have up to, in theory, 255 addresses on that network. We can't have 256. Okay, so a Class B, by default, we can have up to 65,536. Okay, so how that works in a CIDR notation is you've got a /16 by default. So 8 plus 8, so the octet 1 and octet 2 are all ones, so that's your subnet mask 255.255. You can add all them up together, that's what you'll get. And then the second octets are reserved for hosts. So if we add all them up together, 2 to the power of 16, we will get 65,536. Okay, so throwing a lot of numbers at you here, but hopefully it's sinking in. Now this, these numbers at the top is an IP version 4 sort of sample. So we've got 32 bits in an IP version 4 address. From right to left, the host portion is going 2 to the power of the number here. So our maximum number is 2 to the power of 32. If we add 0 as a subnet mask, if we just pick one at random here, if we've got 2 to the power of 10, we've got 10 bits available for hosts, and that equals 1024. Okay, so your CIDR notation, when you look at IP addresses and you may see a /16 after it, for example, again, that's telling us what the network, or telling the network what is a network address and what is available for a host. So /16 essentially means 16 bits are reserved for network addresses and 16 for hosts. A 20/23 would be 23 bits for the network, and the remaining 9 for the host portion. So remember that hosts work from right to left on across an IP address, and network addresses work from left to right in theory. Okay, So again, subnet masks, if we add up every one of these numbers here together, we'd get 255.255.0. So let's just sort of put this theory into practice. So by default, as we've noticed, a class B address would have a default CIDR notation of /16. So 16 bits are being used for the network side and 16 bits are being used for the host side. So the question says, if you're going to change the CIDR notation to /20, now there's other videos explaining the sort of subnetting theory alongside this, but just as sort of an introductory question, we are essentially being asked here how many hosts are available. So if I colour all the 20 bits in a different colour, let's colour it red, then I'm only using these numbers here, or this section here, for the hosts. So the answer to this question is, the question is how many hosts are available in this /20 network. The answer is 4,096. So that's the difference between the host portion and the network portion. Now things can get a little bit more complicated if they use the word usable. So if the question was how many usable hosts, so remember, key bit of a knowledge, we can't use the network address and we can't use the broadcast address, and this is consistent across all subnetting. So all we've got to have in our mind all the time, if we see the word usable, we've got to subtract 2. So that the usable hosts would be 4,094. Okay, so hopefully this has give you that sort of fundamental knowledge about CIDR notations, binary, and the differences between the network and host portion of an IP address. And then once you've got this knowledge in place, then move on to the subnetting activities.